a minute and a half of Stan's thing you can play with. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi, welcome to What's Your Worst, the podcast where we discuss everyday situations and then share our own worst experiences for those situations. On the podcast today is a good friend of ours, Stan Costa. Stan is a bartender slash jet setter, former educator who has drank his way around the world and has documented it all on his pretty successful Instagram page, Stantastic Feats and Where to Find Him. Stan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well this morning, thanks, Sam.
Good.
I'll have
So
you know, Stan, this is
we
the first time Sam has said that on camera, so you are special guest here.
Woo!
first guest, episode 3. It only
Yeah,
took 3
also the
episodes to
first
get one
guest.
of our friends to come.
Yeah,
I'm honored that on a show called The Worst, I'm the first to come to mind.
you were the first to come to mind when I was like, we should have Stan on the podcast.
He is the worst. No,
Stan, can you
but
just give us a quick,
um,
like, 5 second, 10-second summary of who you are and kind of what you like doing?
I mean, I think Sam definitely did a good job just saying it all right there. A bartend for work and a serve as well at a local family restaurant. And I spend all my time and money trying to travel as much and as far as I can.
where's one of the places you went most recently? I mean, given our circumstances, I'm guessing you haven't really gone traveling much lately.
No, I was actually thinking about this the other day because I last month it hit like on a 4-month point. It was the longest I've gone without leaving the country, and that was Canada, right around Christmas time. But before that, I did like a 3-week trip to Israel, Amsterdam, and Spain, with a day and a half in Belgium.
Wow.
Big
What's it
European
like to
tour.
spend just like? Oh, go ahead.
Huh?
Well, you were starting to say something. I didn't want to go over you. Anyway, what's it like to spend only maybe like a day or less in a country, in a foreign country? Because when I think about international travel, I think about wanting to maximize my experience, and so spend as much time as possible. But maybe maximizing is a different definition for you.
Well, I would definitely agree with that thought of capitalizing on your time, but I'd been to Belgium before, and it was actually on a long trip for me. It was actually one of the countries I've spent the most time in on that trip. It was 10 weeks in total, but that trip I spent a week entirely in a few spots in Belgium. So this time for me, it was part of like my birthday trip, and I honestly went solely to bring back some rare Belgian beers with me. So I was like, okay, I'm in Amsterdam. It's a 3-hour train ride down to Brussels. Spent the next day at the brewery and then at a store to have it shipped back home. And then the next day I caught an $11 plane ride to Barcelona solely to get tacos. Because the best tacos on earth are at this place called Machete in Barcelona.
What is different between Barcelona tacos and like Tex-Mex or like Mexican tacos? Is there a difference?
Location, honestly, like the only real difference was they just happened to have this one that I saw, and in Barcelona they speak Catalonian, not Spanish. So when I'm reading the menu, I don't understand a single word I'm looking at. So I recognize one, and it's pollo. So I was like, all right, spicy chicken. And then I see this other option. I don't recognize a single word. So I'm like, all right, this trip's all about adventure and trying new things. So I was like, I'll have one of those too. And even looking at it when it came to me, I was like, I have no idea what this is. But I take a bite and I inhale the next 2 of this whole taco. And I asked the woman, I was like, can I get 4 more? And also, what is that? And it was just a grilled octopus taco with like guacamole and some other stuff going on. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that one.
I honestly don't know if I've ever had grilled octopus.
It's delightful in general, but something about that weird mix they had was just
Dynamite. Yeah, like I've had octopus before, but I don't think I've ever had it grilled either.
Give me one
I
second
feel
here. I
like
just got to plug my phone. Sorry. I just want to plug my phone, and it's got the low battery symbol.
Yeah.
Be right back.
Go for it.
So, Sam, we are doing another what's your worst topic today for I think we're doing like bar experience because Stan is such a big bartender. Emphasis on big bartender. I hope he can hear me through the entire thing.
Oh yeah.
I think he
Great. So worst bar experience, that could be like, for Stan's case, kind of serving people at a bar, or for our case, kind of being at a bar. But before that, I'd like to get a quick story, if we could, from Stan about the last topic that we went over, because you are such a big traveler. Just like, what's the worst traveling experience? And if you could keep it to like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I've definitely lucked out on a lot. Like, I've never, knock on wood, I've never missed a bus. I've never missed a train or a plane or anything. But there was a point, this would have been my birthday, 2016, so 4 years ago. I was flying from Boston to Athens, Greece. And that morning, I'm trying to check into my flight, and it's just not letting me on my phone. So I'm like, that's weird. And then I find out there's like a regional issue. So I'm like, what does that even mean? And the Athens airport air traffic control staff was striking that particular day. So my flight was no longer happening. So I'm like, oh, fun. So I roll into Logan in Boston, and I go up to the counter. I was like, hey, so what's going on here? And the guy's like, well, I mean, as you may know, this is happening. I was like, yeah, like, how can I get there? And he's like, all right, well, we've got a few options. We can fly you from here to Frankfurt, and then you can catch a train. And Frankfurt, Germany to Athens, Greece is a 26-hour train ride. So I was like, all right, can you get me closer? And he's like, we can get you to... Right. So he's like, we can get you to Istanbul. And I've always wanted to go to Turkey, but it was at a time when ISIS was had a big influence in Turkey. So I was like, nah, I like my head kind of where it's at. Where else can you get me? He said, we could do Rome. And I was like, all right, Rome works. Because I was like, all right, I can get a dirt cheap flight on Ryanair from one to the other when the airport opens back up. But he was like, we do have to give you an 18-hour layover in Toronto. So in order for me to get to Greece, I had to fly west to Toronto and spend a day there, fly all the way over to Rome, where I ended up just spending a few days anyways, because I've always wanted to check out Rome. And then by the end of it all, I ended up only spending, I think, like 40 hours in Athens before my flight back, inevitably. But I'm okay with it because it's a dirty city, and I only went there for the history. So it was kind of like, all right, I guess it worked out. I spent more time in Rome.
I mean, you got there, and you basically had a vacation in Rome, so like, you can't really complain that much.
No, I try not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, your Greek trip turned into an Italian trip.
Yeah, I remember my friend Tori, who drove me to the airport that morning, had a hashtag going on her Twitter, hashtag Get Stan to Greece, ?
As if it's like unsure if you'll actually make it there.
Well, that was the whole concern. It's like, am I even going to get to Greece? Like, how's my flight back going to work if I can't even get there to begin with? But made it all work somehow.
They're just like holding the plane in Greece, and you're just like,
where's this Costa kid?
Toronto still.
That would have been a very different trip than I planned.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, great. So that was a good. I feel like you had a good answer. Like, you had a positive ending, and so it made it not as bad as possible. And so I get the feeling that's going to be sort of how the question turns out today, like what your worst bar experience is, whether it be going out or serving. I feel like you're going to find a silver lining that makes it seem, that's not so bad.
But Stan is like one of the more optimistic people I think I know, which is kind of sad, but...
Is it because you're not optimistic?
Hey?
Me? No. I'm not optimistic.
But why is it sad that Stan is optimistic?
Because Stan's not that optimistic normally. Okay.
Drink on that one.
Sam, yeah. Sam, what is your worst bar experience? I'm gonna leave that all behind.
Segways. My worst bar experience. I've had time to think about this one, and I think what it boils down to is I haven't had like a night out that's been just overall the worst I've ever had. I think it's like an experience within a larger experience that has been the defining one for me. And I think, yeah, overall, the difference between like taking half an hour to get a drink at a local bar when it's super crowded versus what I'm going to actually talk about, I think it doesn't really compare. So I was visiting, like Julia and I were visiting friends down in Massachusetts, and we were going out to this it was like country bar, and we've gone out to this country bar with them before because they like it there. There's always live music playing, and the drinks aren't that expensive. And we were there for a little while. I don't really like dancing, especially when they're doing the like square dancing, like country dancing. Like I grew up in the South, but I go for it.
It's that level of country bar. It's like
Yeah. They have
Oh,
like
boy.
line dancing and square dancing. Yeah.
Do
And
you want to
so
borrow my shirt?
I mean, I have one just like it, but um, no. But there's people who get decked out in like cowboy regalia and all that good stuff, and wanna just feel like they're from the South, even if they're from South Shore, Massachusetts. So yeah, people love country up down there. I don't know, and so we were there, and I was hanging in the back just because I didn't really feel like dancing, and one of the boyfriends of one of the girls we were with, he was hanging back there with me, and he said he started talking about like how like he started talking about how like his girlfriend was stupid, and like how I understood that, and how like, oh, women, right? And I'm like, dude, stop being such a fucking sexist asshole. I love my girlfriend, and I don't want to.
Right?
I don't want to. Women, basically, is what he did. He's like, women, right? They're dumb. We're better than them. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, this is out of left field. He just out of nowhere just started being sexist as fuck, and I like couldn't deal, and so I separated myself from him, and I went dancing because I didn't want to be near him, and we were a little while later, same night, we were getting drinks, and I was over by the dance floor, and sorry, I'm distracted because they're outside my window. There is a seagull perched on a lamppost, and we were talking about spy birds last night. So I was wondering
how all birds are actually government spies.
Yeah, they're government spies. Birds aren't real.
No.
Yeah, birds aren't real. Hot take. But that I looked over because I heard people. So I was standing by the dance floor. I look over towards the bar where Julia and one of our friends, Sarah, was standing, and I saw these two guys started getting into it, started like yelling at each other, and they shoved each other. And Sarah and Julia were probably like about 5 feet away from them, and I just stand up, grab both of them by their arms, pull them behind me, and I just stand up, and those two guys looked at me, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they disperse.
We're not gonna fuck
And now
with the tall person.
right. I'm tall. I'm not big, and so, but like I was like, you don't recognize the collateral damage you could potentially do. Like, if you're gonna fight, take it away from my friends, take it away from my girlfriend. Like, get it out of here. Get your aggression out outside, please. Like that. So that was my worst bar experience. It wasn't. I haven't had like. I've been pretty lucky. I've had pretty good nights out, and I think that overall that was a really fun night out. Given just if you eliminate the sexism and the almost bar fight that happened next to my girlfriend, I would say that was an all right night.
Yeah, I mean, nobody got hurt. Nobody. I mean, you didn't actually get in the middle of a bar fight, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I've never been in a bar fight, thankfully.
Not yet.
Yet.
Well, maybe I never will be again if coronavirus takes over the world like it has.
True. I mean,
forever.
bars are starting to open again as of like
And I will.
Friday.
That's true.
I will happily fight you. So let's go.
Yeah, we'll fight the.
I know a spot on the dock we can fight.
Is it the spot on the dock?
Maybe.
I've still never been there. I kind of want to. I've been to the spot.
They're open,
which is great. They are.
We should
Yeah.
Oh, because they're all outdoors.
Should we share their link in the video?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'll like. Oh sweet, these two assholes are gonna come fight at our bar. Glad we reopened for this.
Perfect.
Well, I love their other restaurant. It's like I love their other restaurant. I supported them last weekend. Like that was fun. They're local. They're a local place, local people.
Yeah. As far as like
Fun.
bar experiences, I feel like I've also been pretty close to getting into bar fights, but like only with people that have been drinking way too much that I could probably take them. That's the thing. Like they're barely able to stand up, and so I'm not gonna. I mean, I've gotten into like a couple of alcohol-fueled fights before, but nothing really dramatic.
But so Simon, what is your worst bar experience?
Well, so I was at Red Square, which is a local college bar essentially where you go to get real fucked up. And this was a couple of years ago, but I was drinking and just kind of hanging out with my partner, and then out of nowhere, the bartender or one of the bouncers comes over and is like, "Hey, you gotta leave." And it's like, "What did we do? What's going on?" And so now we're being like escorted out of a bar that we've been to once or twice, that for basically no reason. And looking back on it, I still cannot think of a reason why we would have been kicked out. As far as like serving alcohol though, I used to work at a cafe, and so we would have like mimosas and stuff like that, and some beers. But I was 19 at the time, and so I carded everybody, regardless of how old they were, and kind of whether or not I knew that they could drink. And I definitely had one or two people get really angry that I carded them, even though that's the law. And it's like, if you're gonna get upset that I asked for your ID, like, you can just leave. Thankfully, the owner was pretty cool about all of that stuff, so he wasn't like customer is always right kind of guy. I also don't drink a whole lot, so I don't, not anymore at least, so I haven't really gotten like a whole lot of bar experiences lately that have been like in the last year or so that have been like especially bad.
I remember going back on the comment where like the customer's always right. I remember
False.
Like, when I worked at a liquor store, like I was told this is the one industry where you can tell the customer no. Yeah. And maybe not the one industry, but like it's one of the industries where you can basically say, no, you're not right. Like you go home, get out of here. And like I remember working behind the counter at the liquor store and like catching fake IDs and cutting people off because they were clearly drunk, and like that it's hard to do that. But it's definitely there definitely can be some unpleasant experiences.
Yeah, I feel like the more you do it, the better it gets. Because Stan, you used to work with Sam at the liquor store.
Yeah.
And so you
there's
are there a couple of people that you're thinking of right now that you're just like, yeah, I remember having to like kick them out?
Oh yeah, there's one experience that always comes to mind when I think of bad liquor experience, and I was stone sober, so it's a Friday night, and I'm just working the register. Same as you were saying, I'm just asking this guy for his ID. Like, he looks young enough, whatever.
Yeah.
Hands it to me, and it says he's of age, but it meets the standards of what looks like a bad fake ID.
Scotch tape.
And it was Washington's.
To hold it on.
Yeah, exactly. It's got like that golf ball look. Like, it doesn't look clean printed. It just looks bad. So I call this fake ID hotline we have at the store, and I tell the guys like 3 times, like, this is a Washington State ID. Washington State. I say that every time intentionally. I read off the ID number, and he says, yeah, we have nothing coming back matching that. So I tell the guy, I was like, I can't sell you. He's like, okay, give me my card back. I was like, no, I can't. And he's like, it's my card. You have to give it to me. I was like, I'm not going to. The police can when they get here if you want it so badly, but I'm not going to be able to give it to you. And this guy just like, give me my card back. And he jumps over the counter at me. And one of the owners of the store, who the last time I saw him, he was like 30 feet to my left, just standing by this Red Bull cooler. And then he just like, a 6 foot something giant just shows up in front of me grabs this man and holds him on the counter and just looks calmly at me and says, "Can you please call the police?" And I'm just standing there in shock because the guy like had his hand on my hand that was holding his ID, and then suddenly he's on the counter. And I don't know exactly how that moment happened from here to there. So I'm just like, and he looks at me again. He's like, "Stan, can you please call the police?" I was like, oh, yeah.
I don't know what kind of a person thinks it's okay to jump over the counter at a liquor store for anything.
Well, so the real kicker was it was a real ID, but I'm guessing the guy punched in like Washington D.C. or something. So I'm like, that's even crazier. Some guy who knows he's of age and is completely in the right, jumps at a stranger, assaults a stranger to get an ID back that he would have gotten back inevitably.
That sort of makes you wonder if he had some issue with the police knowing who he was.
I mean that's fair. It's just like it's like what the fuck just happened?
It would probably be pretty tricky to get like a legitimate Washington State ID back when you're pretty much as far away from Washington State as you could get.
Fair.
It's like, but like the hotline that Stan's talking about though, they have the database of like every state and municipality in North America, and so they can access as long as you specify what state it's from or what municipality it is. And I think Stan's probably right. They probably did type in Washington D.C. instead of Washington State, but they should be able to turn back a positive ID or a negative ID on anything you give them.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like if the guy didn't want to deal with the police and he like needed a backup essentially of his legitimate Washington State ID, like
I feel like it would have.
What are you gonna say to that?
I mean, if you're halfway across the country, or in his case entirely, I feel like there's got to be things the states have in effect, like, hey, my ID got stolen or my wallet is missing. So they in theory should have something. Like I know in Vermont and even Massachusetts, like they'll give you one and in like big red writing it says duplicate because there's an original and you're still working off that like original expiration date and everything.
That makes sense. No,
that's so yeah, that again, it still just begs the question, like, why didn't he want to wait for the police?
Right. It's like all he got out of that was assaulted by a store owner and banned from that liquor store.
So that was a bar experience, though, Stan. That was totally unrelated story.
It was.
What's your worst bar experience?
Well, that's a tricky one because that's definitely one of those bigger stories that I recall in the liquor industry, which a lot of my background is in. I'm fortunate enough that in the capacity that I work as a bartender, it's a family restaurant. So I don't have many stories where I've cut 2 people off in a year and a half bartending. And they were both pretty like understanding because like if we close at 10 or 11 at night, all right, we're just going to go to the next place down the road that's open till 11 or 12. So, I mean, in that capacity, it's not too bad. For me, the worst bar experience would probably be of my own fruition. I was going to say my 21st, but actually something came up like a minute ago in my head, and it was the 4th of July, 2016. I was in Portugal, and there was a dinner at the hostel I was in. And then after the dinner, there's a pub crawl that you can pay to do. But because it was the 4th, the people running it let me and these 2 other Americans at that dinner go for free.
Nice.
Which was that was the beginning of the end.
America.
I know why this was a bad night.
And it sticks in my head for a few different reasons because for some reason we were all like, yeah, let's do it. And then the 2 people I was chatting with at the dinner table, these 2 guys across from me, and I forget one of their names, but the other guy's Will, and he was from the UK. And we're chatting, we're having a great time, being very friendly. And then we start the pub crawl, and right as we do, one of the people who works at the hostel takes down the big American flag they have on this wall full of flags and drapes it over my shoulders. So now I'm essentially an unofficial ambassador of America while in Portugal.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, this can only go great. But by this point, I've had like a bottle of wine at dinner, so I'm like, oh, this is going to go great. And we start going, and the first place is it's a random like hole in the wall spot. have a beer because I get like the free token for the first ones on them, and then after that, someone buys me a flaming shot where you take the shot, you sit down, you open your mouth, the guy like drops some cinnamon, lights it, sparks to go flying, and then you just close your jar real quick so you don't like, burn your mouth.
Yeah.
And that was a fun experience. I have the video somewhere. I don't remember where, but I know it exists in one of my social media direct messages. And then we go into the next spot, and it's you pay for one drink, but then you get free drinks for like the next half hour of the 45 minutes we're there. And everyone's in line for draft beer, and draft beer takes like a hot second to fill the thing. So I cut to the sangria line because it's just like a quick scoop. Here you go. Me, Will, and this other dude from Colorado were just like slamming these down, and I forget, it was a high number of sangrias we had.
Always drink responsibly, kids.
Right.
Sangria is always like 80% alcohol, right?
Probably, and with the metric system, who even knows?
What's metric? I want the imperial to metric conversion for 80%. Could somebody leave that in the comments, please?
It's 160 proof.
Check.
Yeah, so we're just slamming these back, and I was kind of fine we had, but I could already tell that this was a really bad thing, and we were all just like shouting and fucking around at this point. And as we're walking to the third and final spot, my British friend Will is like, "Can I get a picture? Like, let me hold the flag. Let me get a picture." And then I always try to be not that American when I travel, and I feel like I do a good job at it. I feel like I can take pride in it. But this is probably the most shameful thing I've ever said while traveling directly to a person.
Great.
And it was, "No, we fought to get this away from you."
Oh no!
And he gives me this.
But you're very drunk at this point.
We're all very drunk, and he gives me this look of like, "Whoa!" And then it's like us just like eye to eye for like a couple seconds, and then we start busting out laughing because he knew I wasn't being serious. It just came out. It's like an American to a British guy, of course. No. This is our day. Happy birthday, us.
Oh
my God.
And I think
that doesn't sound like a bad night, to be honest.
No. But it was just the next thing was what got it, and that was really the what made it a bad night. Was we go to the third and final spot, and it's this club, quarter-mile walk maybe from our hostel, and I walk in, like I walk to the door, I'm next to go in, and the guy just kind of looks me up and down. He's like, "No." He's like, "Buena."
All one
He's
word,
like,
one sound, 0 words.
Buena. And I think that definitely was the nail in the coffin. Like, yeah, no, you can't speak. That definitely wasn't English, and it definitely wasn't Portuguese. Whatever you just said.
Which the bouncer said in perfect English, I imagine.
Oh yeah, he paraphrasing.
Yeah.
How could they tell that you were American, though? I mean, there's no,
it definitely wasn't
discernible...
the star-spangled scarf I was wearing.
No.
or the USA shirt I put on that night, because that was another bad idea. We all make interesting life choices.
You didn't have your USA soccer stuff yet, did you?
No. At that point, I was still a fan, but that was no. I bought all those after the recent World Cup win. So no, Rose Lavelle was still playing in college then.
Nice.
Anyways, so he's like, "No." I was like, "Buena." I was like, "All right." And I think he was just like, "All right, I'm not going to win this game." He just looks at me, he's like, "You're wearing flip-flops." No. I was like, "I don't have to." And I was like, "No, in hindsight, that was a bad thing too." And he's like, "You just got to get out." I apparently threw like this minor scene because the next morning at breakfast, Will was like, "Dude, what happened? You just stormed off. We couldn't find you." I was like, "The guy didn't let me in."
Were you still drunk the next morning?
I hope so, because otherwise it would have been that day was one of the worst hangovers I've ever had in my life. Arguably, actually, maybe the worst, because of all the sugar and sangria. And the wine at dinner too.
Yep.
You're in Portugal, so you're having.
And normally,
wine.
yeah. And normally I'm pretty fine, but when I mix beer, wine, and liquor, that always leads to like a horrible morning for me. No matter how, I could have like a sip beer in there, and the trifecta just perfect storm. So that next day I felt horrible. But at breakfast I was eating. He's like, "What happened?" I was like, "I don't remember." The guy said I can't go in, and I was like, "I wanted to go in, but he wouldn't let me in." And it's like I have to take my shoes off, which didn't make any sense. So it was a fun night, but I was just like, it got ruined by guys saying you can't come into this club, and I was like, I've been back to that city twice since then, and I still haven't been into that club, and I want to because I want to know what I missed.
I was gonna say you gotta go back. I mean, you gotta know how like exclusive it is. If they won't let somebody in wearing flip flops, like what's the cutoff?
Americans,
Americans.
one of the friendliest national people I've ever come across. But yeah, that particular night, it was just like, these guys are assholes. I see why my grandpa left.
I went to Germany when I was 16 or 17, I think. And yeah, I think it was about 8 years ago. And before I left, my mom made sure to like sew a Canadian flag to my backpack so that everybody in Germany would know that I wasn't American with the group of Americans. I was just Canadian with the group of Americans. And I don't know if that like saved me for anything. I don't know if there's a certain reason that Canadians are better over there than Americans, but
I think Canadians on the world stage just look better than Americans, especially now.
I'll tell you right quick, that doesn't mean jack shit.
no.
I wore a USA team soccer jersey in the Middle East and Palestine to prove a point about hypocrisy of nationalists who are like, USA all the way. But the second you tell them you're leaving the country, they say, tell people you're Canadian. I was like, that doesn't add up. You can't beat your chest and then say, no.
I'm Canadian. It's okay.
and the most targeted I felt in the Middle East wearing a USA shirt was, oh, my friend, you're American. You have money. Come into my shop. That was the most targeted I felt. Like, they didn't care I was American. They like Americans. They don't like the president or they don't like the government, maybe. But they have nothing against us as a people.
Yeah, I guess like an individual, it does not make up like the whole. Like an individual is not necessarily the product of the whole system.
Yeah.
So you like, and I think your travels sort of have highlighted that, and that like you've had great experiences everywhere you've been, and you're American, and people like you anyway.
For reasons I still don't know.
Me either. I don't know. Why do we have you on? God, I don't even know why do we like you?
The show's called The Worst, so...
That's right.
Yeah,
we talked about this at the top.
I know why I had the idea.
All right. Well, that was all three of our stories. Simon, you got anything else for us today?
I don't think so. I was just thinking, I was reminded of Stan being like, this is the worst hangover I've had. And I think that would be a good topic for another episode that we have him on for, if there's a different worst hangover that he can think of.
Yeah.
Any other ones come to mind?
Yeah, that Vermont Tech bottle share.
Ooh, okay. We will keep that in mind for the next time that you're on here.
A future episode. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. I think that it was a good idea to have you on.
Me too.
Great.
It's a good idea to have me on.
Relive your terrible mistakes.
Drink
All
that.
right. If you've made it to this point in the video, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed what you saw. Remember, always drink responsibly. And if you liked what you saw, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you for episode 4 next week.
Yeah.
Thanks out.
Remember to tip your bartenders.
Yeah, tip your bartenders, support local businesses.
Mm-hmm. Be safe out there.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.